I'm Katie White, and this is By the Book, Enhancing Relationships Through Literature. Our mission here at By the Book is to connect people with books that foster personal growth and strengthen relationships with family and friends. We believe the best relationship advice is already out there, and we're here to help you discover it. Today we have my darling friend Cardin McKinney. Cardin is truly a Jane of all trades. She's a mother of two sweet boys, is from Alabama, has lived in Nashville to pursue music, and is now living in Utah as a student at BYU, where she will be graduating in April with a bachelor's degree in fine arts and communication with an emphasis in journalism and a minor in family life. Cardin is also an actress, a model, songwriter, and an artist. She initially entered into the entertainment industry at 16. She's worked with artists such as Camila Cabello, Garth Brooks, Lady Antebellum, and Colbie Caillat. She was also on American Idol Season 7, where she landed in the top 25. Today, Cardin has worked for BYU Music Group as a creative director, working with Vocal Point and Noteworthy for several years, and continues to write with legends and has recently begun sharing her own work as a singer-songwriter. In addition to breaking into the music industry, she's become a sought-after actress and model, landing international modeling and acting roles for boutique and major brands and entertainment properties such as Almay, Royal Caribbean, Ford, Dillard's, and Saks Off Fifth. She's an influencer, is currently working on a movie musical project with Nathan Pacheco. Her hobbies include writing stories, poetry, music, horseback riding, travel, all things DIY, and is truly one of the kindest people I've ever met. So here we are with Cardin.
Oh, Katie, thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm so excited to have you here. We're just down here in Utah this weekend for our listeners, and Cardin and I were just having a sleepover with the girls last night.
Yes.
So here we are doing a little morning podcast.
As one does.
As one does. So tell us about what book you chose and why you chose this book.
Okay, Katie, so I chose my favorite book, which is called The Great Divorce by C.S. Lewis. And it's actually not about divorce at all, but it's about the afterlife, basically. And it's just such a fascinating view. It has so much symbolism in it, to get the reader to really consider their own life, their works, what they're doing with their lives, and what they're holding on to, and how that kind of interferes with their relationships and with their relationship with God. So it's a quick read. It's like 150 pages, and it's my favorite of all time.
We love a quick read. We also love C.S. Lewis. So tell us a little bit about C.S. Lewis.
Oh my gosh. Background. So I love C.S. Lewis so much. He is one of the great minds of probably of all of history, honestly. I love that so many of the church leaders that I love and listen to are always quoting him. And he is an incredible thinker and writer. We know that he wrote the Chronicles of Narnia and the books. Beautiful, symbolism within those. But I had never been super familiar with Mere Christianity necessarily, or The Great Divorce. I read the Screwtape Letters growing up, but the more I read about C.S. Lewis's life and how he began as an atheist, he began in the church actually as a young boy, and after his mother's passing, he grew hardened to faith, and he became atheist, and was very devoutly against, I should say, very much against believing in God, until he was a professor. He worked with J.R.R. Tolkien, who wrote all of the Hobbit series and Lord of the Rings. And it was through his relationship with Tolkien that he became a Christian and had a very, very significant experience with Christ and meeting God, and then became one of, the greatest apologists, I think they call them, that the world has known, because he's just so beautifully converted. So, he's amazing.
Yeah, I have loved C.S. Lewis since I was a little girl.
Have you really?
Reading Narnia.
Yeah.
And then I think Mere Christianity was probably the next one I read, and then I just fell in love with that book and read The Great Divorce and all these other ones. So I'm excited to talk to you about this one today.
Yeah, me too.
So you talked about how you read Screwtape Letters as a little girl, but how did you find this book? Was it just kind of, you were just liked that book and looked at other books that he read, or how were you introduced to it?
So I took Survey of Christianity at BYU, and we were invited to find an author that was a Christian writer.
Okay.
And to kind of, dive into their lives, dive into their works. And I chose C.S. Lewis because I love like his quotes, and I knew that I love Narnia. Mm-hmm. I had flipped through again, like I read Screwtape Letters. I think just kind of understanding his conversion process made me more excited to learn about him. So I saw The Great Divorce actually just at BYU Library. I saw that it was a short read, and I was like, why not? I just picked it up one day. Mm-hmm. And I think you and I were saying before the podcast, like as soon as I finished reading it, I was like, I have to read that again. Yeah. That was the most beautiful.
It's a lot too. He's just such a deep thinker.
He is, yeah. And I reference this book a lot when I speak to people, when I think of my mother, which I can explain later. And so anyway, it's just, it's one of those that doesn't leave you and it sticks with you for a long time.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I'm super excited to keep diving into this book. So we're going to go to the part of the podcast now where Cardin's going to teach us a mini lesson on a main principle the book teaches, a main takeaway, and how that kind of relates to relationships. So yeah. I'll let you take away with that.
Yeah. So kind of the premise of the book is the narrator, or I think it's from C.S. Lewis's perspective. He calls it like it was a dream, but he was told to write it down as well when he woke up. So we don't really know if he actually had this dream or he envisioned it and sort of dreamed it up, but it's about the afterlife and visiting the afterlife on a bus ride. And it begins from quote unquote hell, or like a purgatory, or a place where there's gray. It's like a lot of grayness. And the people or the spirits, I should say, that he meets there versus when he progresses through to a heaven-like place, or he hears, everyone speaks of this heaven-type place and those beings there. And the thing that you learn so much from, honestly, throughout all of the book, it's a constant kind of lesson in your own life, but especially those who are in this purgatory or this hell, you realize that they all kind of have this common link together. And that link being that they're all holding on to something from their human lives, from their mortality. And you realize as you listen to his encounters with these people that they're holding onto a grudge or an addiction or a pain that someone has put them through, and they refuse to really accept anything else.
Right.
And there was a really beautiful review done on the book that just said that, we find out that the gates of hell are locked from the inside. So these people are choosing it. They're choosing to be there.
That's powerful.
It is, yeah. And it really makes you consider like the things you've been through and what you've experienced and the hurt you're still holding on to and nursing, and how it truly, and I'm a very devout Christian, and so I feel like it almost is negating the atonement of Jesus Christ. It's negating what he's done for us to continue to look backwards and to nurse old hurt, because he died to save us from that and to make us new every morning, as the scripture says. So it really causes you to think, because some of it's even love, like a past lover that someone just could never let go of. One is a woman who can't stop belittling and degrading her husband. And through her own hurt, she is just adamant on bringing him to hell with her. So it's a really interesting way to consider our relationships on earth. How have our experiences allowed us to either progress and move forward, or have kept us stuck? And that's kind of what I always think about when we say that someone is like damned. You think of like a beaver dam, it's like stopping the flow of energy, stopping the flow of that water, and stopping progression is pretty much all that is. And so the beautiful part about the book that I just wanted to share, it's all throughout, but on this page 106, the quote says that there is but one good, that is God. Everything else is good when it looks to him, and bad when it turns from him. And I think we realize in the book how simple it really is, how, you realize like the gates of hell are locked from the inside. All they had to do was to turn to God.
Right.
That's it. You just like, that's ultimately,
it's that simple.
It's that simple.
Yeah.
And that's really what repentance is just choosing to look to God and not look at the wound or the hurt or the pain or the mistakes, and identify yourself as that. So it's really powerful. And I think the more that we consider how much we hold ourselves back from experiencing more of Christ, it's our own minds. It's our own, we can grow through those things.
Right.
And we have to choose that,
Yeah. That's super powerful. It just like makes me think about what am I holding on to?
Yeah.
Like in this life that's preventing me from like being in heaven, being closer to God.
Yeah.
That's definitely something to ponder on.
Yeah.
For sure.
And the more that we turn away from ourselves, the more we're able to be loving the people around us and helping the people around us and serving them. I mentioned I was going to talk about my mom, and there's a character that I just could never forget in this book where she's obviously this being of light. They talk about the people from the heavenly realm are kind of more solid, like they're not wispy, see-through like ghosts. So it's this beautiful, solid woman, and she's a matronly kind of motherly character. And she comes and approaches, and she has all of these little animals surrounding her, and they won't leave her side. They're everywhere, and they're just following her everywhere she goes. And you come to find out later that this is not only a heavenly presence, but this beautiful being continually was looking out to serve other people, especially when she had very little. She was looking to do what she could for others. And the animals that followed her were animals in her earth life that she had saved and protected and helped and, given them a chance. And my mom, that's my mom. I was telling you earlier in our conversation, my mom is like, she'll rescue any animal off the side of the road. And I'm always like, Mom, you're going to have so many animals following you into heaven. Just like,
someone needs to do a painting of that and give it to her.
I know. Thank you for saving me. But, this is charity. This is when the love of Christ is just sort of like seeping out of a person, like they are my mom. They are looking at every tiny little, nook and cranny of the world and thinking like, oh, I could put love into this. I could put beauty into this. I could put service into this. And it's just a part of who she is. So I love that Lewis really highlights that in this book and causes us to think like, not only is it about letting go of my past, but when I'm not focused on myself and I can focus on everything else around me, that's actual heaven. That's really what it feels like. Yeah. And we become more heavenly because of it. And David Bednar, Elder Bednar, has the most beautiful talk, The Character of Christ. Yes. Yeah. Familiar with that? Yeah. Just all about how Christ is always looking outward. Right. Even in his lowest moments, he was more concerned with people around him. So it's just a beautiful, quick read on that kind of fills you up and says, okay, I can get outside of myself and my pain and my hurt, and I can be more involved in love, right? And concern myself with love. So yeah, I love that. Something else that came to mind as you were talking was about the people who were in hell holding on to certain things. About how a lot of these situations that these people were in, if I'm remembering correctly, had to do with somebody else. Yes. That they were like letting somebody else keep them in hell. Like they were letting the decisions of their husband, the decisions of their son, like of somebody else keep them there. And so going back to what you were talking about, it's like, okay, like what do I have control over? How can I serve somebody else rather than blame somebody else? Oh, so good. And so I think that that's just a really powerful thought as well, that Lewis teaches so beautifully in this is like, who are you letting keep you in hell or in a damned state? Like because you're giving that person the power, right? Yeah. But then going back to like
this heavenly creature you're talking about, like with your mom, of like, instead of saying like, oh, all these animals were in my way or whatever, like these animals gave her an opportunity to become this solid heavenly individual.
So true.
So I just love that. An
example
so much.
Of being able to reach out in charity.
Yeah.
And you know, some of these concepts are familiar to us, but I just think Lewis is so interesting that he decided to create a heaven and a hell that mirror like our humanity so well, because it's human nature, and I believe it's honestly like the adversary's will and plan that we are so focused on ourselves and the things that other people have done.
Yeah.
And how it's not fair, and we are, and I do it all the time, but we victimize ourselves without knowing it almost. It's like, or you could just let that go, you know? And you think about how much brain power it takes up to just relive things that people have done to you.
It's exhausting.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and it keeps you're absolutely in a spiral. So I just imagine Lewis writing this, and really he understood what that was like, because if you understand his life, you know, his mother died and his father was abusive, so he was left with nothing, and he believed God abandoned him. So as a child, he learned that it was everyone else's fault that he was miserable. But think about how much it took then for him when he went into his conversion. It's going to make me cry, but to just give up all of his hurt and pain to Jesus.
Yeah.
And finally be like, I accept the things that have happened to me and that you're real. Because sometimes accepting the pain we've been through accepts that there's a God that let us go through that.
Yeah.
And that'll catch your breath. You know, it's like, that's intense, but that's also where the healing is. The healing, you know, the physician he's working these things for our good, truly, even the bad stuff. So
yeah, that is so inspirational, just to hear people's stories of going through horrible things and watching them struggle through that, but choosing to live a life with God. Yeah. It's like, if C.S. Lewis can do it, I can do it. Like,
yes.
You know, it's just like, like one of the other interviews I did a few days ago was about a book. What is it called? I'm losing it right now. But anyway, it's just another person who just absolutely went through horrible situations. And it's like, they chose to feel happy. They chose to serve, and they chose not to be angry. And I just think that gives so much power to us, that we do have that choice.
Yeah, that reminds me, there is a book, it might have been was it on the Holocaust by chance? Do you remember?
It was.
Okay.
I think of it right now. It was,
I'm trying to remember it too, but a super famous book.
Yes.
Stephen Covey talks about that in The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. He quotes that book specifically because he's saying,
Man's Search for Meaning.
Yeah.
Victor Frankl.
Okay, there Victor Frankl. I knew it was that. Yes, so that's right. The last, as he was being tortured in, you know, these, I don't know if it was Auschwitz maybe, but, you know, these concentration camps, he realized that the last thing he could give over was his will to accept the torture. Yeah. And so in his mind, he remained like, you cannot hurt me. Even with all that pain he was going through. He was like, you can take everything from me, you cannot take my will. Like, I will not hate you, I will not let you have my pain. It's pretty amazing.
It's powerful.
Yeah.
What human beings are capable of.
It really is.
Yeah. So, Cardin, who would you recommend this book to, and why?
I think everyone needs to read it personally, because it does allow you to read it and reflect on your own experiences and what you've been through. You immediately start thinking about that person that hurt your feelings in 5th grade, or you know, whatever. That you're like, oh, am I still holding on to that? But I was drawn to it because it says that, you know, the great divorce. I'm divorced. I was like, that's interesting. It really means the divorce of heaven and hell, and you cannot have either in both, right? So it's like there cannot be an ounce of hell in heaven, nor can there be an ounce of heaven in hell. You have to choose.
Yeah.
In fact, I had a therapist tell me once that you can't be on the fence about it. Is God good or is he not? You have to decide.
That's a powerful thought.
Yeah. So, so of course, anybody with, a past at all, but divorce or breakup or things that have hurt them or that they're healing from, I would recommend it for people who might even consider that maybe they don't know that God is real, and they're interested to just learn kind of, the mindset of Lewis when he wrote this. Anybody that loves beautiful writing, he's like one of the most beautiful writers
for sure
in existence.
Yeah.
And again, it's like 140 something pages, so it's very quick, and you feel filled up after you read it.
Yeah. I love that. Well, I'm excited to reread this book one of these days. Like every time I do one of these interviews, I'm like, I need to reread this book again. But
so good.
Do you have anything else you want to add before we wrap up?
I don't think so. Maybe just my own testimony that, over the years I have learned that this is true, and mostly just that when you find yourself holding on to things that have hurt you, and it feels too big to even, let go of. I've always just imagined, Jesus in my mind, like holding onto my hand while I just toss it, and let it go or give it to him. And you think, oh, that's a nice thought, but there's something very like spiritually real that happens to me when I envision that, visualize it, and when I just say, Jesus, I need you to take this. There's so much power in the words we speak, and the scriptures say that as well. And so, yeah, if that's something that people are looking for and are struggling to find, I would just invite you to try it. You could at least try and see what that feels like, because there's very beautiful power that can happen in your life when you choose to let go and just hold on to Christ.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes.
That's beautiful. Well, thank you to our audience for joining us today on Buy the Book. We hope that you've enjoyed your time here. The link to the book on Amazon and Audible will be in the show notes. We hope that you'll check it out. And if you do, let us know in the comments what your main takeaways were and what you learned. We'll see you next time. This podcast was created to help fulfill class requirements in Teaching Family Life Education class taught by Dr. Daryl Higgins at Brigham Young University, Idaho, as I work towards a bachelor's degree in marriage and family studies. Thank you.